Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into a topic that's been generating a lot of buzz, especially after our recent video, and that's the carnivore diet. Yeah, we've been getting tons of questions about the potential long-term health concerns of this all-meat approach, so we're here to break it all down, myth-busting style. So get comfy, grab a drink, maybe not a bone broth though if you're not on the diet, and let's separate fact from hype.
It's really understandable why people are drawn to the carnivore diet. I mean, who wouldn't want effortless weight loss, sharper thinking, and feeling less inflamed all the time? But as we highlighted in the video, those promises, tempting as they are, come with a pretty big catch. You have to give up all plant-based foods, like completely fruits. Fruits, veggies, grains, legumes, nuts, everything. And that's a pretty drastic restriction, right? So let's talk about what that could mean for your long-term health.
You know, when we were making that video, I was honestly surprised by just how many essential nutrients are missing from a strictly meat-based diet. You think it's packed with good stuff. Yeah.
Right. It seems counterintuitive. But the truth is, while meat does offer protein and some vitamins and minerals, it's not the complete nutritional package some people believe it to be. The carnivore diet leaves some pretty big gaps, and those gaps can really affect your overall health. Take fiber, for example. It's crucial for gut health, blood sugar control, even mental well-being, and it's completely absent on the carnivore diet. And then there's vitamin C, that immunity powerhouse that also helps your body produce collagen. You're not going to find much of that in a steak.
And it's not just those two, right? The video mentions a whole bunch of other nutrients that are hard to come by when you're only eating meat.
Oh, absolutely. Vitamin E, a potent antioxidant that protects your cells from damage, is primarily found in plant-based foods. And then there's folate, which is super important for cell function and DNA synthesis. And don't forget about potassium, which is vital for your heart, muscles, and nerve function. These are just a few examples, and they all really point to the importance of dietary diversity. When you eliminate entire food groups, you inevitably miss out on those key nutrients.
And I imagine those deficiencies can lead to some pretty serious health issues down the line. In the video, we touched on how the lack of those nutrients can affect things like immunity, cellular health, even increase the risk of chronic diseases.
It's like trying to build a house on a shaky foundation. Without a solid base of essential nutrients, your body is more susceptible to all sorts of problems. For example, not enough vitamin C can weaken your immune system and make you more susceptible to infections. And the absence of antioxidants, like vitamin E, can leave your cells more vulnerable to damage from those pesky free radicals. Over time, this oxidative stress, that damage from those unstable molecules, can contribute to the development of chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, and even Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, so nutrient deficiencies are a big concern with the carnivore diet. We've established that. But what about the impact on specific areas of health, like cardiovascular health? That's a big one, and I know a lot of our viewers are wondering if a diet so heavy on meat could actually be bad for their hearts.
It's a very valid concern, and the carnivore diet does raise some serious red flags when it comes to heart health. The sheer amount of saturated fat on this diet is a major issue. While the debate on saturated fat and its impact on heart health continues, many experts still recommend limiting it. And a diet centered around fatty cuts of meat, butter, and other animal fats is likely to push those saturated fat levels way past what's considered healthy.
Okay, so more saturated fat. What else is going on in the cardiovascular system with this diet? The video also mentioned cholesterol and blood pressure.
Right, those are two key players in the heart health equation. The carnivore diet can lead to elevated cholesterol levels, specifically the bad LDL cholesterol, which can build up in your arteries. And because you're not eating plant-based foods, you're also missing out on all those heart-healthy nutrients they provide. Things like fiber, which can help lower cholesterol, and antioxidants, which protect your blood vessels from damage.
Almost like stripping away your body's natural defenses that help keep our hearts healthy.
Precisely. And then to make matters potentially even worse, the high sodium content in processed meats, coupled with the lack of potassium from plant-based foods, can really mess with your blood pressure regulation. This combination just adds to the strain on your cardiovascular system.
So between the excess saturated fat, the elevated cholesterol, the missing nutrients, and the potential blood pressure issues, it seems like the carnivore diet is cutting the stage for some real cardiovascular problems. We've talked a lot about what's missing on this diet, but what about the impact of what's there in large quantities, all that meat? I'm thinking about the gut microbiome, which we know is so important for overall health.
That's a fantastic point. The gut microbiome, that amazing community of trillions of bacteria living in your digestive tract, it's like a hidden organ. And it has a massive impact on everything from digestion and immunity to mental health and even how your genes are expressed. And yeah, as you might guess, the carnivore diet can really shake things up in this delicate ecosystem.
In the video, we talk about how fiber is so crucial for a healthy gut microbiome. But on the carnivore diet, there's zero fiber. So what happens to those good gut bacteria when their main food source is gone?
It's not a pretty picture, to be honest. Imagine a lush forest suddenly deprived of sunlight, right? The plants wither, diversity declines, and the entire ecosystem suffers. The same thing happens in your gut when you cut out fiber. Those beneficial bacteria that thrive on fiber start to disappear, and you lose that microbial diversity. And what we've learned is that a diverse microbiome is a healthy microbiome. It's like having a well-balanced team of superheroes working together to keep your body functioning at its best.
So less diversity in the gut.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean for our health? What are the consequences?
Well, for one thing, it can really mess with your digestion. Those beneficial bacteria play a key role in breaking down food and absorbing nutrients. Without them, you're more likely to experience digestive issues like bloating, gas, and constipation. But it's not just digestion that suffers.
Right, the video also talked about how fiber is essential for making short-chain fatty acids. These molecules have tons of health benefits.
Exactly. These short-chain fatty acids are like VIPs in your gut. They nourish the cells lining your digestive tract, helping to maintain a strong barrier against harmful substances. They're also anti-inflammatory, which can help protect against a range of chronic diseases. And they even play a role in regulating your appetite and supporting brain health.
Wow, they really do it all. So when you cut out fiber on the carnivore diet, you're missing out on all those benefits.
Yeah, unfortunately. And that can have some pretty significant effects on your health. For example, without those short-chain fatty acids, the lining of your gut can become more permeable, allowing things that shouldn't be there, like undigested food particles and toxins, to leak into your bloodstream. This can trigger inflammation throughout your body and increase your risk of a whole host of issues, from autoimmune conditions to chronic fatigue.
So we're talking digestive problems, immune system issues, and even mental health impacts.
Exactly. The gut-brain connection is a fascinating area of research, and we're learning more and more about how the gut microbiome can actually influence our mood, our thinking, and our overall mental well-being. Disrupting that delicate balance in the gut can have ripple effects on your mental state, potentially contributing to anxiety, depression, and other mood disorders.
This is all pretty concerning stuff, for sure. So we talked about nutrient deficiencies, heart health, the gut microbiome. What about the impact on other organs, like the kidneys and liver? They're like the body's filtration system, right? Do they take a hit on this diet?
They definitely do. The high protein intake from a carnivore diet can put a lot of stress on both your kidneys and liver. Remember, these organs are responsible for filtering waste products from your blood, and breaking down protein creates a lot of waste. When you're constantly overloading your system with protein, it's like asking your kidneys and liver to work overtime, nonstop.
So it's like wearing them down over time.
Exactly. This can increase the risk of kidney stones, especially for people who are prone to them. It also puts extra strain on the liver, which has to work harder to metabolize all that protein. For people who already have kidney or liver issues, this can be really dangerous and lead to serious complications. The video even mentioned a few case studies where people experienced significant kidney or liver problems after adopting the carnivore diet. Of course, how our bodies respond to things can vary, but it's a risk that shouldn't be ignored.
This is all pretty heavy stuff. What about our bones? Does a diet high in animal protein affect bone health? I know some people think that eating meat is good for strong bones because of calcium, but is that the whole story?
That's a great question, and it's important to look beyond simple assumptions. While meat does contain some calcium, the carnivore diet can actually throw off your calcium levels. This is because it eliminates other important sources of calcium, like dairy and plant-based foods. This imbalance can negatively impact bone mineral density over time, making bones weaker and more susceptible to fractures.
So it's not just about getting enough calcium, but also about balance.
Absolutely. And the carnivore diet's impact on the body's acid-base balance also comes into play here. Eating a lot of protein can increase acidity in your blood. Your body tries to compensate for this by pulling calcium from your bones to neutralize that acid. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You might be getting calcium from meat, but you could be losing it from your bones at the same time.
Like a domino effect, one imbalance leading to another.
Precisely. And let's not forget about vitamin K, which is also essential for bone health and is found abundantly in leafy greens. Another thing missing on the carnivore plate.
So to sum it up, the carnivore diet could potentially lead to weaker bones and a higher risk of fractures down the road. This has all been pretty eye-opening. But I have to ask, what about cancer? Is there a link between the carnivore diet and cancer risk? This is something we get asked about all the time, and I know it's a major concern for a lot of people.
It's a tough question, and we have to acknowledge that more research is needed. However, there are some warning signs that we highlighted in the video. For example, eating a lot of red and processed meats, which are staples in the carnivore diet, has been linked to an increased risk of colorectal cancer. This link has been observed in large studies that track what people eat and the diseases they develop over many years. While these studies can't prove for sure that one causes the other, they do point to a strong association.
That's definitely concerning, especially considering how much red meat people tend to eat on the carnivore diet.
Another concern is that the carnivore diet eliminates potentially protective plant compounds. These compounds, found in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that may help protect against cancer. So, by ditching plants completely, you're potentially losing that protection.
Right, and in the video, we talk about some of those specific compounds, things like flavonoids, carotenoids, and glucosinolates. They all have those incredible cancer-fighting properties.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing cancer. These compounds also have a ton of other health benefits, from boosting immunity to protecting against heart disease. So eliminating them from your diet could really do more harm than good.
It's like taking away multiple layers of protection, leaving your body more vulnerable to these chronic diseases.
Precisely. And finally, we can't overlook the fact that the way meat is often cooked in the carnivore diet, like grilling or frying at high temperatures, can create potentially carcinogenic compounds. These compounds, known as HCAs and PAHs, form when meat is cooked at high heat, especially when it's charred or blackened. While the occasional BBQ isn't likely to cause any significant harm, regularly consuming meat cooked in this way could increase your overall cancer risk.
So while the direct link between the carnivore diet and cancer needs more research, it's safe to say there are some valid concerns that should be investigated further. It's not something to take lightly.
Absolutely. It's an area where we need more research to fully understand the long-term implications. But based on what we know now, caution is definitely warranted.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today, from nutrient deficiencies and heart health to the gut microbiome, organ function, and even bone health and cancer risk. But what about mental health and cognitive function? Does the carnivore diet have any effect on how we think and feel? I know some proponents of the carnivore diet claim that it improves mental clarity and focus, but I'm curious to hear your take on this.
That's a great question, and it's one that often gets overlooked in conversations about the carnivore diet. While we need more research in this area, there are some potential concerns to keep in mind. And these concerns are often overshadowed by those anecdotal reports of improved mental clarity.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of those potential concerns?
Well, for starters, certain neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers in the brain that regulate mood, motivation, and focus, they need precursors that are found in plant-based foods. The carnivore diet eliminates these foods, which could affect neurotransmitter production, and that could impact mood regulation. For example, tryptophan, an amino acid found in foods like turkey and nuts, is a precursor to serotonin, a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in mood, sleep, and appetite regulation. If you don't get enough tryptophan from your diet, your body might have trouble producing enough serotonin, which could lead to mood swings and imbalances.
So it's possible that the diet could actually make it harder for the brain to produce those feel-good chemicals.
That's the concern. We also need to think about the balance of omega-3 fatty acids, which are crucial for brain health, mood regulation, and cognitive function. While some animal products contain omega-3s, cutting out plant sources like flax seeds, chia seeds, and walnuts could disrupt the balance of these essential fatty acids.
Okay, so mood and brain function could be affected. Anything else to add to the mental health picture?
We can't forget about all those nutrient deficiencies we talked about earlier. Many of those vitamins and minerals are really important for cognitive function. And if you're deficient for a long time, it could have a negative impact on your thinking, memory, and overall brain health. For example, vitamin B12, which is mainly found in animal products, is essential for nerve function and the production of neurotransmitters. While the carnivore diet might provide enough B12 initially, over time you could become deficient if you're not eating organ meats regularly. And as we know, vitamin B12 deficiency can cause a range of neurological problems, from fatigue and memory issues to irreversible nerve damage.
Yikes. So this diet isn't exactly doing our brains any favors either.
That's an important takeaway here. While some people might feel a short-term boost in mental clarity, maybe due to things like weight loss or reduced inflammation, the long-term effects of nutritional deficiencies could do the opposite. They could actually impair cognitive function and mood regulation.
Wow, this has been a whirlwind of information. We've uncovered a lot of potential risks associated with the carnivore diet, and it's clear that this way of eating has far-reaching effects on our overall health. But before we wrap up part one of our deep dive, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners who might be considering or are already following the carnivore diet?
It's so important to remember that our bodies thrive on a balanced and varied diet. That means getting nutrients from both animal and plant sources. The carnivore diet, while interesting in some ways, might lead to some serious long-term health consequences. We definitely need more research to fully understand the long-term effects, but for now, I'd say err on the side of caution.
That's great advice. We'll be back in part two of our deep dive to explore some alternative dietary approaches that align with established nutritional guidelines and individual health needs. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the carnivore diet. I know we've covered a lot of ground, and some of it might be concerning, but it's really important to remember that all of this is for informational purposes only.
Exactly. We're not here to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't eat, but rather to give you the information you need to make your own informed choices about your health. If you're thinking about any big changes to your diet, especially something as restrictive as the carnivore diet, please talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian. They can help you figure out what's best for your individual needs and guide you safely.
Couldn't agree more. Now that we've talked about some of the potential risks, let's switch gears a bit. Let's look at some alternative dietary approaches that are supported by scientific evidence and can help you stay healthy. After all, if going all meat isn't the answer, what are some options that can give us the nutrients we need without compromising our health?
Right, that's the big question. When we were researching for the carnivore diet video, we came across so many different approaches that focus on balance and variety. So let's explore some of those. What are some of the diets that are consistently ranked as the healthiest in the world?
Well, one that always seems to be at the top of the list is the Mediterranean diet. It's not really a diet in the traditional sense. It's more of a way of eating that people in the Mediterranean region have been following for centuries. And their good health and longevity have definitely caught the attention of researchers all over the world.
I've always been curious about the Mediterranean diet.
Hmm.
It just seems so vibrant and delicious and not restrictive at all. What are the key principles that make it so good for us?
The foundation is whole, unprocessed foods. We're talking about colorful fruits and vegetables packed with antioxidants, fiber-rich whole grains, protein-packed legumes, healthy fats from olive oil and nuts, and all those amazing herbs and spices.
It sounds delicious and nutritious.
Yep.
In the video, we showed some visuals of Mediterranean meals, and they just looked so appealing and satisfying.
Exactly. And that's a big part of why this way of eating is so sustainable. It's not about deprivation. You can still enjoy moderate amounts of lean protein, dairy, and even a glass of red wine if you like. It's all about balance and savoring a variety of foods in moderation.
That's a huge contrast to the carnivore diet, which is all about restricting and cutting out entire food groups. The Mediterranean diet embraces variety, and as we've been talking about, that's so important for getting all those vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants our bodies need.
Exactly. And the benefits go beyond just getting those nutrients. Studies have shown that the Mediterranean diet can lower your risk of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancer, and even Alzheimer's disease.
That's amazing. It really shows how powerful a balanced and diverse diet can be. What about other diets that are known for promoting overall health? In the video, we briefly mentioned the DAS diet. What's so special about that one?
The DAS diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, was originally created to help lower blood pressure. But it's really much more than that. It shares a lot of similarities with the Mediterranean diet, with its focus on fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. But the DAS diet also specifically emphasizes reducing sodium intake.
That makes sense, given the connection between too much salt and high blood pressure. So it's all about cutting back on the salt.
Yeah, but it's not just about what you're reducing, it's also about what you're adding. The DASH diet emphasizes potassium-rich foods, which can help counteract the effects of sodium on your blood pressure.
Okay, so lots of bananas, leafy greens, sweet potatoes on this diet.
Exactly. And don't forget about beans, yogurt, even fish. They're all great sources of potassium.
These diets all sound great, but what about people who are specifically looking to lose weight? Are there any healthy approaches that can help with weight management without the extreme restrictions of something like the carnivore diet?
Absolutely. One approach that's been getting a lot of attention is intermittent fasting. And before you think it's just another fad diet, it's actually not about what you eat, but when you eat.
Oh, interesting. I've heard about intermittent fasting, but I haven't really looked into it. How does it work?
There are a few different methods, but the basic idea is to cycle between periods of eating and fasting. For example, one popular method is the 168 pattern, where you fast for 16 hours a day and eat all your meals within an 8-hour window.
So it's like giving your digestive system a break.
Exactly. And that break can have some really interesting effects on your metabolism. During those fasting periods, your body starts burning stored fat for energy, which can help you lose weight. But the benefits go beyond just weight loss.
Really? Tell me more.
Research suggests that intermittent fasting can also improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, lower blood pressure, and even boost brain function.
Wow, that's impressive. But are there any downsides to intermittent fasting? Any risks or drawbacks?
It's definitely not for everyone, and it's really important to talk to your doctor before trying it, especially if you have any underlying health conditions. Pregnant or breastfeeding women and people with a history of eating disorders should also avoid intermittent fasting.
That's a good point. Any dietary change, even one that's generally considered safe, should be discussed with your doctor.
Yeah.
What about other weight loss strategies that focus on what you eat rather than when you eat?
One approach that I often recommend is the volumetrics diet. It's a very sensible and sustainable way of eating that focuses on choosing foods that are high in volume but low in calories.
That makes sense. What are some examples of those kinds of foods?
Think fruits, vegetables, soups, whole grains. These foods are full of water and fiber, which make you feel full without a lot of calories.
So it's all about feeling satisfied and preventing those cravings without overdoing it on the calories.
Precisely. And the volumetrics diet isn't just about food choices, it also emphasizes mindful eating, really paying attention to your hunger cues and savoring your food. This can help prevent overeating and promote a healthier relationship with food overall.
It sounds like a really holistic approach to weight loss, taking both the physical and mental aspects of eating into account. It also aligns with what we've been talking about throughout this deep dive, finding a sustainable way of eating that nourishes your body and supports your well-being.
Absolutely. Crash diets that severely restrict calories or cut out entire food groups might lead to quick weight loss, but they're rarely sustainable in the long run. And they can even backfire, leading to nutrient deficiencies, metabolic problems, and even disordered eating patterns.
So it's about finding a way of eating that you can stick with, right?
Exactly. Sustainability is key. A balanced approach that gives you all the nutrients your body needs is far more likely to support your overall health and well-being over the long term.
So instead of jumping on the latest fad diet bandwagon, it's important to do your research, talk to your doctor, and choose an approach that aligns with your own needs and goals. And remember, a healthy diet shouldn't feel like a punishment. It should be enjoyable and something you can maintain for life.
I couldn't agree more. There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to nutrition. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about finding what truly nourishes you and makes you feel your best. And that often involves moving away from extreme restrictions and embracing a variety of nutrient-rich foods.
Great advice. Now, I know we've covered a lot, but we've only just scratched the surface of the world of nutrition. There are so many other dietary approaches out there that we haven't even touched on yet. Welcome back to our deep dive on the carnivore diet. In the last 2 parts, we talked about the possible risks of the carnivore diet and explored some great alternative diets that focus on balance and good nutrition. Now let's switch gears and talk about diets that fit specific needs and preferences. In the video, we got a lot of questions about plant-based diets, so let's start there.
That's a perfect place to start. Plant-based diets have become super popular, and for good reason. They address concerns about animal welfare, the environmental impact of meat, and, of course, all the potential health benefits. 2 of the most well-known plant-based diets are vegetarian and vegan diets.
Right, and we actually had a graphic in the video highlighting the key differences between the two. So for our listeners who aren't familiar, can you quickly explain what each one is?
Sure. Vegetarian diets cut out all meat, no beef, poultry, pork, or fish, but they do allow animal products like eggs and dairy. Vegan diets, on the other hand, are stricter. They exclude all animal products, so no meat, poultry, fish, eggs, dairy, or even honey.
I think the graphic we used in the video really helped to show the differences visually. It's helpful to see it laid out like that.
Yeah.
Now, both of these diets focus on plant-based foods, but like we've been saying throughout this whole deep dive, it's not just about what you don't eat. It's also about what you replace those foods with. So for people thinking about going vegetarian or vegan, what are some key things they should keep in mind?
You're exactly right. It's really important to pay attention to your nutrient intake, especially when you're cutting out whole food groups. With vegetarian and vegan diets, there are a few nutrients that need a little extra attention. Protein is one that people always ask about. While meat is a big source of protein, there are plenty of plant-based foods that can give you all the essential amino acids you need.
Yeah, and in the video, we highlighted some yummy plant-based protein sources. Things like lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh, quinoa, even nuts and seeds. There are so many options.
You got it. And variety is key for getting a complete protein profile. Along with protein, iron is another thing to watch out for. Vegetarians and vegans are more likely to be iron deficient. That's because plant-based iron isn't absorbed as easily as heme iron, which is found in animal products.
So do vegetarians and vegans have to eat more iron-rich foods to make up for that?
It's something to keep in mind. It's important to eat a lot of iron-rich plant foods, like leafy greens, beans, lentils, and fortified cereals. And you can actually improve iron absorption by eating those foods with a source of vitamin C.
That's a great tip. We also mentioned vitamin B12 in the video as being really important for vegans. Why is that?
Vitamin B12 is mainly found in animal products, so it's pretty much non-existent in a vegan diet. It's super important for nerve function, making red blood cells, and DNA synthesis. And being deficient can cause some serious health problems.
So vegans should definitely take a supplement.
Definitely. A reliable vitamin B12 supplement is a must for vegans to avoid deficiencies. It's also a good idea to pay attention to calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, and vitamin D. Vegans can get these through fortified foods or supplements.
This really shows how important planning and knowledge are when going vegetarian or vegan. It's not just about not eating meat, but also making sure you're getting those nutrients from other places. Now, switching gears a bit, what about people dealing with food sensitivities or allergies? Are there diets that can help manage those?
Absolutely. And thankfully, people are much more aware of food sensitivities and allergies now. This means there are more options and resources for people who need to avoid certain foods. Gluten sensitivity, which can also be celiac disease, is one of the most common food sensitivities.
Yeah, we briefly talked about this in the video and showed some examples of foods with gluten in them. So, for those who might not know, what exactly is gluten? And what's a gluten-free diet like?
Gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye. For people with celiac disease, even a little bit of gluten can trigger an immune response that damages the small intestine. For people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, gluten can cause a variety of symptoms, from digestive issues to headaches and fatigue.
So a gluten-free diet means cutting out all sources of gluten.
Yep, that means no bread, pasta, pastries, and a lot of processed foods that have wheat, barley, or rye. But the good news is, there are so many gluten-free alternatives these days. It's easier than ever to follow a gluten-free diet without feeling like you're missing out.
That's great to hear. It's awesome that people with gluten sensitivity have more choices now. What about other common food sensitivities like lactose intolerance?
Lactose intolerance is when you can't digest lactose, the sugar, in milk. It's another common problem. For people with this, eating dairy products can cause digestive problems like bloating, gas, and diarrhea.
So the solution is a dairy-free diet.
That's one way to go. And the great thing is, there are tons of delicious dairy-free options available now. Almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, oat milk, rice milk, the list goes on.
We actually showed a grocery store aisle full of plant-based milk alternatives in the video. It's amazing how many options there are for people with dietary restrictions.
I know, right? And let's not forget about lactose-free dairy products. These are milk products that have been treated with the enzyme lactase to break down the lactose, making them easier to digest.
That's great. So people can still enjoy dairy without the discomfort. It's all about finding what works best for each person.
Exactly. And beyond allergies and sensitivities, some people choose specific diets for ethical or environmental reasons. In the video, we talked about a couple of those, like flexitarian and pescatarian diets.
Right. And those are great examples of how our food choices can reflect our values. Can you give us a quick overview of each one?
Sure. A flexitarian diet, as the name suggests, is a flexible approach to vegetarianism. You eat mostly plant-based foods, but include meat or fish every once in a while.
So it's a way to reduce meat consumption without going completely vegetarian.
Exactly. It's a great choice for people who want the health and environmental benefits of a plant-based diet, but still want to eat meat or fish sometimes. Pescatarian diets cut out meat and poultry but include fish and seafood as protein sources.
So it's a way to get omega-3 fatty acids and other nutrients from fish while still sticking to a mostly plant-based diet.
Exactly. Like all dietary choices, it's important to make sure you're not missing any nutrients. You want to make sure you're getting a balanced and varied intake of everything your body needs.
Wow, this has been such an interesting journey through the world of diets. We've covered so much, from the potential problems of restrictive diets like the carnivore diet to all these balanced and specialized diets that meet different needs and preferences. I feel like our viewers are going to come away from this video understanding so much more about nutrition and how to make informed choices.
I totally agree. When it comes to nutrition, there's no one right answer for everyone. It's all about finding what works best for your health goals, lifestyle, and values. And like we've emphasized throughout this entire deep dive, it's so important to talk to a qualified healthcare professional. They can give you personalized advice and help you figure out the world of nutrition.
Absolutely. And always remember, eating healthy should be enjoyable and something you can stick with. It's not about depriving yourself, but about nourishing your body with a variety of foods that support your overall well-being. So keep exploring, stay informed, and make choices that empower you on your health journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the carnivore diet.